The planet LV-223 is the main narrative location of the movie Prometheus and one of the military laboratories of the engineers. And the main question that arose while watching the movie is what happened to the engineers at this facility. On the one hand, we were shown mountains of corpses, skin, slime of xenomorphs, and we can make an assumption about sabotage, or it is an accidental infection with pathogen. But then where were the survivors who managed to run to the salvation hall, where there were urns with photogen and a huge stone head? The movie didn't show any hint that they died there. They only found the severed head and why they ran there. Yes, from the analysis we learned that it happened about 2,000 years ago. But is it really during this time? No one from the Space Jackies did not visit the planet, and the scientific expedition Prometheus was the first to visit after the terrible beating in the laboratory. Also in this video, you will learn what happened to the crew members of the last surviving engineer, who was awakened by David, and how the events of the picture Prometheus are still connected with Alien 1979. That's what makes the Prometheus picture so interesting. But if you want to know the mystery of the death of the engineers, I suggest you watch the video to the end, put a like, and subscribe to the channel, and I'll get to the answers. It all started because of the conflict between two groups of engineers. One wanted to destroy the Earth, total annihilation of all life. Humans have greatly disappointed their creators. As we remember from the cut dialogue, the last engineer said that they gave humanity all the seeds of life, but people repaid them, leaving behind only rot, so it was decided to destroy their creation, except that the elders didn't like the idea. The very representatives who participated in the ritual of creating a new world, where the chosen one had to sacrifice himself and drink the blood of the original alien to create life in his own image. The elders wanted to preserve their creation. Because of this misunderstanding, a split in the creator society occurred. A group of space jackies on the planet 5523 began to prepare for the realization of their plan. They load the docks with the pathogen and prepare the cargo for shipment. At that moment, a spaceship appears in the sky, and it's not a juggernaut, but the mothership of the elders. It's the kind we saw at the very beginning of the Blizzard movie. It hovers in the sky above the building and drops a receptacle with a pathogen into the hole, which is intended for terraforming. It's hard to imagine a more ideal place to drop a vessel. The pathogen spreads rapidly through the air. As it happens, we were shown in the movie Alien Covenant. The unsuspecting jockeys continue their work, but still not all in time put on their helmets, and the pathogen was able to find its carrier. After a short period of time, one of the group becomes ill. He falls squirming away, coming for one creature the moment of death and for another birth. And before the eyes of the terrified jockeys, a xenomorph appears. Everyone immediately realized that there was a leak, and perhaps everyone is a carrier of the parasite. But to survive, you have to run to the escape room. The room where there is a huge stone head and produce the pathogen itself has one ability. If the door is closed, it stops the development of the parasite inside the body. Yes, and in general, anything within this area can be stored for much longer. In this room, it's like time itself stops. It is still shown in the movie, where the head separated and the body is fully preserved, as if it happened yesterday, not 2,000 years ago. But if the door is open, it disturbs the atmosphere and properties. From the urns that had been in a state of tranquility for thousands of years, the pathogen began to flow out. But before everything was sealed, then it was not happening. There's a logic to it. The creators aren't stupid enough not to build an escape plan on the military lab in case of a general quarantine in case of a pathogen leak. That's why all the engineers rushed to the place of their rescue. We can remember this from the memory hologram in the movie itself. Most of them managed to get there. Only one of them gets so bad that he falls down in front of everyone. At that moment, the door closes and cuts off his head. It is this head that Elizabeth Shaw finds and later tries to revive. But some survived. But the second group was much less fortunate. For some reason, they could not open the hall, so they died in agony from the pain of agony in front of the closed door. Later, Fifield and Milburn would stumble upon this dump of dead bodies as they wandered through the labyrinth in search of a way out, and in just a small amount of time after the sabotage, the xenomorphs have become completely dominant on the planet. They will later leave traces of their presence, the slime that David finds on the wall, and it's amazing how well it's preserved after even more than 1,000 years. The evidence of the xenomorphs will be found by Fifield and Milburn, some of the skin shed during growth. I was reminded of the 1979 movie Alien. There was a a similar scene where Brad, in his search for his cat, finds the same skin on the floor. The majestic creators have now fallen victim to their own creation. Fortunately for them, the military jockeys found out about this incident as they had a similar situation on the neighboring satellite LV-426. They managed to evacuate the survivors from the lab. Their exoskeletal spacesuits were much stronger than those of ordinary jockeys. Plus, this group was well armed. They managed to clear the passageway of the xenomorphs and reached the hall. The main difference between the military is the size. They are much bigger and taller when compared to the rest of the species. This was basically well understood from the old movie from '79. If you compare the Jogger to the picture Alien and Prometheus, you can see the difference with the naked eye. And the Juggernaut ships themselves were also different in size and cargo carried. For what exact reason they forgot about the last living person who remained on the bridge of the ship in the anabiosis capsule is unknown. But if it didn't happen, the movie Prometheus wasn't that interesting. And if you're wondering where the other 3 crew members went, the answer was in the movie itself. They too are lying in anabiosis capsules. If you stop the frame and zoom in, you can see that exactly in the area where the chest should be, there is a hole inside the capsule. And so, it is on all 3. This completely rules out the silly theory that the last surviving engineer who was awakened was infected with a pathogen, and he made the decision to go into anabiosis to save himself. And after he was awakened, he was unhappy that it was people and not a rescue expedition, and out of anger, he killed people. In fact, he couldn't stand the parasite. The rest of the crew, on the contrary, were infected with the pathogen. They're dead, lying around, except that during cryosleep, the xenomorphs got out of them. That's why all 3 capsules are damaged in the chest area. That's xenomorph evidence. The same sabotage occurred on ILV-426. From the cut dialogues of the engineers, you could then learn on viewing what happened there. When David first walked onto the bridge of the ship, a memory hologram was activated. There are 4 engineers walking around the room. One of them leans over to another and says that a group of military engineers who were on the same mission with them to annihilate planet Earth were attacked by a planetary seeder, and the ship made an emergency landing on the nearby moon LV-426. Too much time had passed, and they were no longer able to help him. This was the ship that Nastrom's crew found. With this information, we know that the sabotage on LV-223 and the death of the Space LC from the movie Alien happened at the same time. If we refer to all available sources, the military engineer's base and lab is on LV-1201 in the same Xeno grid. There are similar facilities there as on LV-223, the main difference being the cultivation and study of xenomorphs. There was no pathogen on it, just a large amount of facehugger eggs. As we already know, the creators themselves call them planetary planters. That's where the Juggernaut ship flew from and was forced to land on Henry 426 after a diversion. There are no bases or laboratories on that moon. Anyway, I hope I was able to give you some answers. If not, mention in the comments what you didn't like about this video. So literally 1 more minute of your attention. Before a movie is made, a self-respecting director, screenwriters always come up with a really good story, and the movie is basically just 50% of the entire script. There are people who do what they do. They buy out the artwork, they buy out the extras, and they publish it, or they make a comic book based on it. So the next video I will make about the hierarchy and clans of engineers, and the history of who they are. After I buy the material from the Croft channel, the guy himself rarely posts videos and does comics, but he gave me a little introduction to the clans that engineers have, or groups if you want to call them that. So the interesting thing is that they even had different languages. The elders use cuneiform, and all the other engineers are military. Here they used a different language. And indeed, I checked, in the movie there's cuneiform writing in the building, and the urns have some different hieroglyphics written on them. Second, all the space jackies further continue their some kind of laboratory experiments, scientific and technological advancement. The elders have completely stopped doing that. They're like, I don't know, some kind of sect or cult, something like that. Well, I hope that my information was, as always, useful and you liked the video. I'm waiting for your feedback in the comments. See you soon.